Stop splashing me, Charles. Come on.
It's just a bit of water, baby. You'll be okay. We laugh as we swam, the shore distant as we explored the depths of the ocean. Suddenly, however, I looked at my girlfriend and saw a strange look on her face.
Charles, stop tugging at my leg.
Not, baby. What's wrong? With a scream, she suddenly disappeared beneath the waves. I lunged for her, but she was gone in an instant, and I screamed for help. Help! Someone help me! I need help! From the corner of my eye, I saw a dark shadow swimming around me, and I began to panic. The ocean was dark, and my girlfriend was nowhere to be found. The dark shadow in the water, whatever it was, began to swim closer and closer. Then, suddenly, I felt something grab my arm and pull me to the surface. A boater had seen me struggling in the water and pulled me onto their vessel. Hey man, are you okay? What's happening? My girlfriend, she's gone. We were just swimming and then she was gone. We'll find her. Just stay put. But they didn't find her. They even called the Coast Guards, but she was nowhere to be found. Eventually, the boaters and Coast Guards were looking at me like I was crazy, and the only thing I could do was leave. I wasn't about to give up, though, and I directly went to the police. I'd like to report a missing person. Her name is Nancy. We were on summer vacation and we were swimming in the ocean when suddenly she just disappeared. The police took my story, but what I saw when I left the station had me in shock. I saw her standing across the street, a look of bewilderment on her face.
What's going on, Charles? Why were you at the police station? I've been looking all over for you.
What? What happened? I was in shock and kept asking her questions, but she couldn't remember anything. She said she had a terrible headache and was feeling very disoriented. We hurried back to the hotel. I hoped to get some answers. When we got back to our room, however, she seemed tired, and so we decided to go to sleep for the night. I awoke to the sound of running water. I looked around and gasped as I saw that our room was filling up with water. I could hear the faucet running from the bathroom, and so I ran to turn it off, my heart pumping. As I ran back to wake up my girlfriend and get her out of there, however, I saw something that gave me chills. Nancy? What's going on? What are you? She was transforming, her entire body turning into a creature with scales and fins. Her eyes were now a deep black, and her mouth looked like that of a fish. Her skin was a grayish green and blue color, and her hair was long and black. And her claws, her nails had transformed into long, black claws. And then she lunged at me. Dodging to the side, I bolted for the door and ran into the hallway. I kept running until I was far away from the door of my hotel room, then stopped and looked back through the window. Nancy was sitting on the bed as if nothing had happened. I rubbed my eyes, confused, and backed away thinking I was hallucinating due to shock.
Charles, where are you going? Come back.
Finally, I opened the door to the room again.
Charles, why did you run away like that? What's the matter? Did you have a nightmare?
I guess I did. Rubbing my eyes, I figured that I had just been dreaming. There wasn't any water and there wasn't any sign of what I had seen. Anyone would assume that they were dreaming if they saw something like that.
Maybe we should go for a swim again. It'll help you clear your head.
Yeah, I guess we can. Maybe I just need to wake up fully. And so we headed down to the ocean again and got into the water. As we swam, nothing out of the ordinary seemed to happen, so I gradually got more and more relaxed. As we drifted slowly further away from shore, however, I felt something brush up against my leg, and then I felt it again. Looking down at the water, I saw dark shapes surrounding me, and I glanced up at Nancy with concern. Nancy, something's going on. But I didn't finish my sentence as I saw her face. It was completely transformed again, and she had a sinister smile on her face. Before I could move away, she grabbed my arm and pulled me under the water. I struggled, fighting with all my might, but I could feel myself being pulled down. I kept struggling, but her hand was holding my wrist with an iron grip. Let go! Let go! What the hell? But she didn't, and she dragged me deeper until my vision began to fade away. I saw her face, wild and monstrous, and then I let go and sank into the depths of the ocean. I could see shadows swimming around us, closing in, and I knew that I'd probably never see the surface again. The shadows around me became clearer, and I realized that they were other creatures just like Nancy. I guess next time, I'll be helping her lure another innocent swimmer into her trap. It was my first day of school. After a terrible car accident, I was rejoining the life of a teenager. My drunk mom's reckless driving made me lose one of my legs. The teacher introduced me to the class, and I could tell people weren't welcoming. The students whispered about my appearance in the middle of the term, but I kept the accident a secret. If they knew I had a fake leg, they will make even more fun of me. During lunchtime, I was heading to my table carrying my food when I slipped and fell onto a popular girl named Emily.
Oh, no!
I spilt the pasta on her shiny new dress, and everyone started laughing.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
This dress is worth more than your entire family, weirdo.
Hey, don't need to be rude, okay?
Or what? What are you gonna do, huh?
She pushed me, and I couldn't keep my balance this time. As I fell, my skirt went up to my knee, and everyone saw my prosthetic leg.
Whoa, what is that? Are you even human, weirdo?
People started taking my video. I was humiliated and traumatized. I wanted to smack that stupid girl, but my emotions got the best of me. I got up and ran away. I ran until my lungs gave up. When I stopped, I found myself standing in the woods. The school's backside led to the dense forest, and I was lost in it. Not knowing where to go, I spotted this hiking trail. A humming sound was coming from the end of the trail. It was scary, yet so alluring at the same time. I started following the trail. I had no idea where I was going, but I just couldn't stop myself from doing so. After 5 minutes of walking, I reached in front of this small mud hut. Smoke was coming from its windows. The humming had stopped by then. A rotten smell was making the air heavy. Being curious, I entered the hut. A gypsy woman was sitting near a fire pit with her eyes closed. The woman's partial face had burn wounds. On the fire pit was a small pot that had something black boiling in it. Suddenly, the woman opened her eyes and smiled at me.
So, you want them to be nice to you?
I don't know how she could tell, but I nodded my head. She grinned, flashing her remaining teeth, and told me to sit closer to the fire. I followed her instructions like a faithful puppy. She took out a box and opened it. My skin crawled when I got to see what was inside. It was the leg of a dead bird. The color had turned black over time.
What would I do with this?
You can solve your problems. It would grant you 3 wishes, but only with hellish consequences as punishment for tampering with fate. You can't change what has happened. Your wishes need to revolve around the present. But you must decide if you want this or not.
I looked at the box and could feel my heart beating faster. What more do I have to lose? I took the box from her hand. Just then, a bolt of lightning struck.
A storm is coming. You should go home before you get lost in the dark.
I came out of her hut. After putting the box in my backpack, I turned back for one last glance. To my shock, the hut was gone. The lady was nowhere. It was just an empty, barren land in the middle of the woods. I couldn't sleep the entire night. All I could think was, what should I ask for my first wish? Then, suddenly, a cruel plan came to mind. I opened the box and made my first wish.
I want Emily to get humiliated at school.
The next day, we were all sitting in our art class when Emily started behaving crazily. She picked up a scissor and began cutting her hair while laughing like a psycho. Other students got scared seeing her behave that day. Our art teacher tried to stop her, but she didn't let go of the scissor. I was sitting right next to her and watching her embarrass herself. My heart enjoyed the cruel deed I just pulled off, when suddenly, the scissors slipped from her hand and landed on my big toe. I got up screaming in pain. Emily was escorted out of the classroom and I got immediate medical attention. The power of the dead bird's leg made me a little scared. To get my revenge, I ended up hurting myself as well. But then, it was only a cut, so it didn't take me much more time to make my second wish. After Emily was out of the scene, it was decided no way she's going to be at the prom. I wanted to take this chance. I wished for Emily's boyfriend Jack to ask me to the prom. I wanted to ruin her and hurt her as much as possible. And my wish came true. While leaving for home, Jack came to me. He told me since Emily won't be going to want a date for the prom, and he wants to take me, I obviously said yes. I appeared at the prom in a bluish-pink gown with Jack, but before we could walk into the dance floor, I went to the washroom. I was ready for my third and final wish. I asked the dead bird's leg to make the prom night memorable for me, and that's all eyes stay on me tonight. We danced and enjoyed ourselves. It was looking up for me, which is why I forgot about the malevolent consequence of the wishes. At the end of the prom, Jack and I got crowned as the prom king and queen. My wish came true as I climbed up to the stage. I was all set to make my prom speech when suddenly something horrible happened. A bucket filled with foul-smelling pig blood landed on me from above. I was drenched in thick, gooey liquid. I looked at the audience and all of their eyes were on me, just how I wished it to be. Suddenly, Catherine entered from backstage. She went psycho for stealing her boyfriend right before prom. It was she who tied the bucket above my head and was waiting for the right opportunity. That's when my head snapped. I jumped on Catherine with my prom queen trophy and began hitting her on the head with it. People were trying to separate us, but I didn't stop. Instead, Catherine's heart stopped beating. My life got ruined and now I'm waiting on death row. Every night I wake up screaming to these nightmares where I see a dead bird's leg sitting on my face and scorching my skin with its sharp nails. It was a cold night, but I wanted to work out. Little did I know I would barely escape that gym with my life. As I worked out, the power suddenly went out. I tapped on my phone screen looking at the notifications. A blizzard warning showed brightly at me, and I sighed. Damn, I really thought I'd be able to beat the snow. I better head back. I grabbed my gym bag and walked toward the door, but stopped in my tracks as I stared out at the snow. It was whirling and nothing was visible except for the drifts which had begun to pile up against the window. Sighing, I turned back to the workout machines. I guess you guys will keep me company until the blizzard's over, huh? I was about to sit back down and begin working out when I heard a faint noise at the window. It sounded like a tapping, and I thought it might have been some ice or snow hitting the window, but it seemed too regular, and so I glanced up. But the snowy darkness outside was too thick to make out what it was. I took a few steps closer until my face was almost pressed up against the glass, and that was when I saw it. Its face stared directly into mine, and I could feel the terror creeping up my spine. It was some kind of creature. It had a dark face, and all I could make out were the glowing white eyes beneath the long, drooping hair. Antlers sprouted out in every direction, and I flung myself backward in shock. What the hell are you? But the creature didn't move, nor did it respond. It simply stared at me. As I backed up, however, I stumbled and fell over some weights on the ground. My head hit something hard, and I blacked out. When I came to, I stared wildly around, looking at the window where the creature had been, but it wasn't there. The snow still whirled outside, but it was empty. I thought I had imagined the whole thing, but then I heard the tapping noise again. This time it seemed to be coming from inside the gym. My heart raced, and my fears crept back in as I slowly walked toward the sound. Hello? Is anyone else in here? There was no response, but the tapping continued. I felt a cold trickle of sweat run down my spine, and I walked slowly closer to the noise. It seemed to be coming from inside the bathroom, so I steeled my courage and turned my phone flashlight on. Walking around the bathroom, I didn't see anything at first. Suddenly, however, the light from my phone landed on something beneath one of the closed stalls. 2 goat's feet. My breath caught in my throat, and I quickly backed up. The tapping at the stall continued, and that's when I made a run for it. But no sooner had I turned around when I felt a cold, bony hand on my throat and felt myself being turned around. Get away from me! What do you want? It turned me around and I could see the creature standing there, its eyes still shining with an eerie white light. Panicking, I began to kick wildly as it held my throat until I finally managed to pull myself away and run. I dropped my flashlight, but I didn't care. I ran through the darkness till I saw the familiar shape of the bench press and then threw myself behind it. I could hear a tapping noise here and there, and I clamped my hand over my mouth. Suddenly, however, there was a silence, and then I heard the door of the gym creak open. Hello? Anyone in here? I saw a car parked outside. Hello? Hello? Hey, please, you gotta help me. There's someone or something in here with me. I sprang out from behind the bench press, running toward the officer. Whoa, come on, man. Let's get you home. I'll call this in, but the weather is basically everything shut down. Hop into my car and I'll get you home. All right. Thank you so much. And so I hopped into the officer's car and he began to drive. As we drove, the officer began to talk to me. So what did you see back there that had you so freaked out? I don't know, man. It was some sort of guy, I think. But it was so weird. I'm not even sure it was human. Sounds like you might have had too much to drink, huh? I wish, man, but this was all too real. We drove in silence for a few minutes, until the officer finally spoke again. Well, whatever it was, I'm sure you're safe now. Just try to get some rest on the ride home and you'll be back to normal before you know it. Sound good? Yeah. Thanks. Again. And so I stared out the window, my eyes on the snow which fell all around the vehicle. It was so dark outside, however, that I couldn't help but see a bit of a reflection from inside of the car. It was then that I saw him. There was no officer sitting there next to me, but the creature. Its white eyes stared straight ahead, not even blinking. I screamed and threw the door open, jumping out into the snow. Get the hell away from me! I ran through the dark blizzard till I saw lights on the road. Waving my arms wildly, I begged for the car to stop. It seemed so far away, and I was freezing cold. My legs were going numb, so I was overjoyed as the car began to slow down. I just hope that this time, it's not that creature again.
At my first job, I had a colleague named Molly. She was a sweet, kind woman. No matter how tough the situation was, she would always manage to make people smile. Back then, I was looking for an apartment when I asked Molly. She said she had rented one of her rooms to a guy and she lives in the other one. But then she suggested me something.
You know what? Come live with me for a couple of days, till you find a good house. I'll do all the arrangements.
Honestly, being the small-town girl in a big city did scare me about safety. So I happily agreed to stay at Molly's for a few days. And this is where the story begins. Molly's house was 2-story, but the upstairs needed repair, so no one used that area. The downstairs had 2 bedrooms. The big one was Molly's and the other one belonged to a man named JP. The first time I saw JP was the day I moved in. Molly and I were arranging my bed in the living room when I saw JP walk into the apartment. He looked weird. His hair was overgrown, and in the scorching summer, he wore this brown pullover with black jeans. At first he didn't see us, but once he turned his head hearing the sound from the living room, I got a look at his full face. He had a scar in his left eye that extended from his forehead to his left cheek. His pale green eyes gave me the creeps. Hello, Molly. Everything all right?
Oh, yeah. JP, this is my friend Amara, and she's gonna crash here for a couple of days.
JP looked at me with a blank face. To get rid of the awkward silence, I spoke.
Hope that's fine with you? I'm actually looking for a...
He stormed out to his room, slamming the door loudly behind him.
What the? That's strange. He's pretty friendly with me. Seriously, Molly? How can you even trust a guy like that, let alone make him your roommate? Oh, come on. I have training in karate. I can take care of myself better than you.
Molly started joking to lighten up my mood, and I shrugged it off eventually. But the more days passed, the more my suspicion grew about JP. As I slept in the living room, I had a full view of the apartment at night. Molly was always a deep sleeper, so she hardly came out of her room, but JP, I don't know what the hell was wrong with him. Often at night, I would wake up hearing footsteps in the kitchen, and my drowsy eyes would find JP standing near the kitchen sink washing something. I tried to lay still just to watch what he was up to, but all he did was wash something in the kitchen, put it in a plastic bag, and then go back to his room. I didn't tell Molly about this as I wanted to get more clarity. One night, I stayed awake waiting for JP to come out of his room. After hours of waiting, I heard a subtle click of a door. The hair all over my body stood straight up in anxiety. He's coming. He's coming now. Low thudding footsteps went to the kitchen and stopped. The faucet started running and I could smell bleach in the air. I slowly tilted my head to look at the kitchen. Why are you awake so late? I thought you always slept by 11. Is anything troubling you? I was numb with fear of having his wide, hawk-like eyes running on me. I could barely speak. My voice died down my throat. JP then hunched down to the floor, bringing his face right next to me. His filthy, warm breath touched my face, but I couldn't move away in disgust. I was that scared. My body was frozen. You should try to get some sleep, okay? He then leaned onto my face and kissed me on the forehead, which almost gave me a heart attack. And then he went back to the kitchen.
But it's all your assumption, Amara. You may be wrong, right? I'm definite that JP is mental. That guy can be a killer and no one will know it. I'm telling you, the way he...
Good morning, girls. What are you guys talking about? I got quiet as soon as I saw JP. Molly looked at me and then asked him.
Do you use the kitchen at night?
JP's creepy smile changed into a scary frown. Why? Does that bother your friend?
No, JP. That's not what I meant. What do you do in the kitchen at night anyway?
Nothing. Just wash my clothes.
But you have a bathroom for that. We eat in the kitchen.
JP gave me a creepy smile and replied, Fine, I won't do it again. He grabbed the keys from the table and left the apartment without saying anything more. As soon as he left, I ran to Molly's room.
Amara? Wait, what are you doing?
I grabbed a bobby pin from Molly's jewelry box and walked straight to JP's room. Molly came rushing and grabbed my hand.
Amara! He's my roommate, and as an owner, I can't let you ruin his privacy. I'm telling you, he's hiding something, Molly. He's not what he seems.
But Molly didn't listen to me. Her trust in JP was so blind that she totally disregarded my words. We ended up having a fight and I left her apartment. I changed jobs as well to stay close to my family, and 6 months went by. One day, I got 2 officers visiting me at my house. They were asking questions about Molly. Her family filed a missing persons report 3 months back. The cops were searching for her, and 2 days back they found her. She was lying dead under a bridge. Her body was discovered in such a decomposed condition that it was hard to tell the cause of her death. Tears rolled down my eyes hearing this, and then JP's creepy smiling face flashed in front of my eyes. But before I could tell the cops about him, the cops said they were suspecting Molly's roommate. JP eventually went to jail on the charge of second-degree murder. But what's even more scarier is the fact that after Molly went missing, JP was the one who called her parents and insisted they file the missing persons report. The story you just saw is loosely based on the tragic death of Maribel Ramos, a 36-year-old Iraq war veteran. Maribel lived in an apartment in Orange, California, with her roommate Kwang Choi, known as KC Joy. On May 3, 2013, Casey called the cops saying Maribel hadn't come home for days. Her family reported her missing based on Casey's phone call. On May 17, 2013, the police searched a remote area in Majeska Canyon, California, and found Maribel's body in a shallow grave. The remains of her body were too decomposed to confirm the cause of death. Her boyfriend, Paul Lopez, told the authorities that Maribel had gotten into an argument with Casey about not paying rent, and she wanted him out of her place. When questioned by the police, Casey admitted to arguing with Maribel but denied all the accusations. The authorities had no evidence connecting Casey with her disappearance. However, the police noted that he had scratches on his arm. The cops also found a 911 call recording of Maribel talking about her roommate's scary behavior. The call was made 11 days prior to her death. During the trial, Casey came up with a totally different story. He said when he came home, he already found Maribel's body. He claims he thought she killed herself, and out of fear of being suspected as a murderer, he drove away the suspicion by dumping her body under that bridge. Casey Joy was eventually found guilty of second-degree murder. In September 2014, Casey was sentenced to 15 years to life.
I have had too many cocktails with my friends tonight. When my vision started to blur from the intoxication, I decided to stop and go home. Everyone uses Uber, right? So even after my friends insisted on dropping me home, I refused and ordered an Uber. I just wanted to go home. My app dinged with the name James. I love that they let you know the name of the person picking you up. It makes you feel like you have a sense of familiarity with the person. I could barely stand when the black car pulled right next to me.
Oh, thank God.
I jumped in the back, buckled up, and we set off to my destination. Before the car started, I heard the locks click and didn't think much of it. Water bottles were placed in a cooler pack in the middle seat, along with a tray of snacks consisting of granola bars, Jolly Ranchers, etc. I loved it when the drivers did this. I would give them 5 stars, especially after a night of drinking. Those water bottles were a godsend. I dug through the pile of snacks and tossed a candy in my mouth.
Hey, James. Do you have any good tunes?
He didn't respond. Indeed, he heard me, or maybe I was drunk and slurring. I piped up again, this time louder after clearing my throat.
James, excuse me.
He looked at me through the rearview mirror. Sure, he answered in a cold way and turned on the music. James finally began to speak up after a few minutes of awkward silence. You been drinking tonight? I looked out the side window and replied.
Yeah, just a few drinks.
Now his eyes were stuck on the rearview mirror. One hand was on the steering wheel as he kept us steady on the road. I could tell that he was trying to catch glimpses of me without me noticing. He spoke up again, this time with a grin. What did you drink tonight? Bored with the dragging of the ride, I figured this was innocent small talk.
Well, some beers and a few shots of you-know-what.
He sat up in his seat, one arm still on the wheel. Those deep brown eyes kept flickering at me in the rearview mirror almost every couple of seconds. He started to pry. You drink tequila often? I casually replied while I kept my eyes out the window.
Sometimes. Depends on my mood.
He laughed. So you must be feeling drowsy, huh? Now I started to feel uncomfortable. Why was he questioning my level of coherence? I kept my eyes focused out the window because I was getting creeped out.
Nope. Just a little relaxed.
He kept a tight-lipped smile and then spoke. You want to be drunk, though? I have a bottle of tequila back there. I stared at my phone. Just 5 minutes more till I was home.
No thanks. I'm actually good.
He had both hands on the steering wheel now, gripping it tight and rubbing his hands against the leather. This nervous feeling rose in my gut, and I know they say never to ignore your gut feelings, but I was already in the car with this guy. I was a few minutes from my house. What was I supposed to do? I sat there and kept my eyes glued to the window. Perhaps he would just get me home without suggesting anything inappropriate if I didn't show any interest in conversing with him. Whatever I was doing seemed to work, because he changed his tune through his following response. So you're done partying for the night, huh? Responsible. I let out a short chuckle and agreed with him. I was being responsible. He piped up again, this time more friendly than before and less interrogating. Well, help yourself to the water. I have plenty. My heart started to slow, and I realized that he was just trying to earn that 5-star review by being accommodating. He may be trying to be excellent. He has all these snacks and drinks in his car and free alcohol. Perhaps he was trying to get his Uber score up. He may have a family at home who he's trying to provide for. Was I being too judgmental? I silently scolded myself for the intrusive thoughts. I grabbed the water bottle, twisted the lid off, and took a couple of gulps. I saw the turn from my street ahead, and a rush of relief washed over me. That is, until he passed it. That's right, he ultimately passed my street. I sat in my seat, screwed the lid back on the water bottle, and spoke up.
Hey, you passed my street.
He didn't say a word, only smiled.
Hello? You passed my street.
What he said next made my heart jump into my throat. I know.
Wait, what? Why didn't you stop then?
That's because you aren't going home tonight. My body started to shake. I immediately opened my app to report him and call for an emergency when I got the biggest shock in my life. The Uber I ordered before getting into his car has charged me for making him wait and then not showing up. This means the car I'm in right now was never my ride home. My shaking hand slowly went to the door handle, but it was stuck. Why is it... Wait, this isn't stuck. Something is... The doors won't open from the inside. I've activated the child lock. Suddenly, he stopped the car in the middle of the empty street and turned back at me with a huge knife.
What? No, please, don't do this!
The story you just saw is loosely based on the tragical death of Samantha Josephson. 21-year-old Samantha got into Nathaniel Rowland's car after a night out in Columbia's Five Points Entertainment District. She mistook his car to be her Uber ride that would take her back to her apartment. Halfway down the journey, Samantha started suspecting Rowland's odd behavior, but it was already too late for her. She found herself trapped inside the car as Rowland had the child-proof locks on. Her body, as later found, with 120 stab wounds in remote woods 65 miles from Columbia. No outright motive for the killing was suggested by prosecutors during the course of Rowland's trial, but Judge Newman said the killer was totally heartless. When the news reporters questioned about Rowland's motive, the top prosecutor, Byron Gibson, said it was absolutely a random act of violence.